going on? It's Green Thumb Prepper. So today we're going to be talking about onions. Lots to cover, guys. Not gonna lie, I got notes just to make sure I can get you guys all the proper information. There's a bunch of numbers and stuff on here, so if you see me looking at it, that's why. So pretty much with your onions, you've got three different types. You have your short day, intermediate day, and long day. And to figure out how to divide that, pretty much draw a line from San Francisco to the tip of South Carolina, across the states. If you're above that, you're in the long day onion zone. If you're below that, you're in the short day onion zone. And so pretty much all it depends on is the amount of daylight hours per day that you have in your growing zone, right? So what happens is when your daylight hours reach a certain amount of time, that's when your onions will transfer from growing the top green section, your leafy section, to bulb development, okay? So with your long day onions, that happens when your onions hit between 14 and 16 hours a day, and that time is measured on June 25th at the equinox, okay? So with your long day onions, they're from latitudes 37 to 47 degrees, okay? And those are in northern latitudes. So here where we are, we start our seeds 8 to 10 weeks before last frost. I'm behind the times here. I've been crazy busy, so I'm starting my onions today. That's just kind of the way I got to run it right now. So for your long day onions, they're usually like your spicy storage onions, right? The standard kind of onion you'll buy at your grocery store. Those are usually generally a long day onion. And those are the ones you want to store because they've got more sulfur content and less sugar in them. For your intermediate onions, those are between latitudes 32 and 42. And your bulb development starts at 12 to 14 hours a day. And you plant those normally in the springtime. And those are usually more sweeter type onions. And then you have your short day onions. And those are from latitudes 25 to 35. So that's pretty much the lower swath of the US, kind of right along the coastline, Florida and such. That's normally where you'll get your short day onions. And they need 10 to 12 hours of daylight. They require milder winter zones of 7 and warmer. So for your germination, it takes about 7 to 14 days for your germination to happen. And you want your soil pH to be almost 0, so pretty much neutral, right? And you're going to want to sow them 1/4 inch deep. So what I do for my trays, I'm growing mine in plastic trays like this. So what I've done is I've filled them up, but I've left a little space at the top. So I'm going to spread all my seeds. I'm going to do that after I tell you guys some more information about the onions. So all I'm going to do is I'm just literally going to spread my onion seeds, and I want these trays to look like your front lawn at your house. I just want it a full covering of onions. It's going to literally look like blades of grass, okay? So when you want to harvest your onions later on in the fall, what you want to do is you want to wait for the tops to fall over. Once your tops fall over, that's what's going to that's when you know they're pretty much ready to go. So you want to harvest them, and you want to put them in the sun. You want to put them out of the sun for a couple of days outside. I put mine on a piece of trellis I have lying around behind the house. I keep them out of the sun for a few days. If they're storage onions, what you want to do is you want to keep them out, and you want to let them dry until the tops go totally brown, and the outside of the onion feels like a piece of paper. You want it kind of papery, leathery, right? When that's all happened, then you're going to take your scissors, your snips, your shears, and you're going to cut off the top of the onion, and you're only going to leave about 1 inch, and you want to cut all the roots off completely, and that's going to stop the onion from rotting. And if you guys are growing onion sets, Personally, I'm not a fan of onion sets. Yeah, sure, they're easy to do. You can literally just take your little tiny onion sets, stick them in the ground, right? And they're going to grow. They're onions. But at the same time, onion sets, so onions are a biennial, right? They have a 2-year life cycle. So the first year they bulb, the second year they try to flower. So if you're growing onion sets, they're not good for storage onions because they're already in their second year of life. So what happens with onion sets is farmers who grow onion sets for distribution, they'll grow these sets and they'll let them get about the size of the onions that you see in the stores, right? In the little bags, the cloth bags, about the size of a marble. So they'll let them get to that point and then they'll shut off all the water to that plant. And they'll just let the plant pretty much wither and die off. They'll cut the tops off, and then when you buy your onion sets, so you're now buying last year's onions. So if you want onions to store long term over the winter, onion sets are not ideal for that, because what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing the center of the onion turning green, and it's going to start to grow again. It's going to try and grow to produce flour. They're not good for storage. So if you want storage onions to put away for the winter or whatever, don't grow onion sets. As for fertilizer, before you put them in the ground, you're going to want to, for about a week or so before you put them in the ground, you're going to want to put in a high potassium and phosphate valued fertilizer. And then after you've planted your onions, about 3 weeks later, you're going to want to hit them with a high nitrogen volume, because the potassium and the phosphate is going to encourage root growth, right? Because you're just putting little tiny onions in the ground, so you want them, you don't need nitrogen right now. You want those bulbs to start putting those roots into the soil. So once a few weeks after they've been in the ground, switch it out to a high nitrogen fertilizer, and that's going to encourage all the green tops of your onions growing. You don't even have to worry about bulb development, because that doesn't matter until, you know, you're hitting the right amount of daylight hours. For watering, you want 1 to 2 inches per week during the green top growth section of your onion before it starts to bulb out. You want 1 to 2 inches of water penetration into your soil a week. And then once bulbing happens, you want that to be about 4 inches of water a week. And you're going to want to mulch around the bottoms of your onions, guys, couple inches thick. I prefer to use straw myself, because at the end of the season, I take that straw and I incorporate it into my hot compost, and then I just start fresh every year. So by putting the mulch down on the ground, what you're going to do is you're going to keep that soil nice and cool, because onion roots, they don't go very deep in the ground. If you've ever pulled an onion out of the ground, you're amazed at how little actual root growth is really there to even grow those big onions. These onions right here that I'll be planting today, they grow 3 to 5 pound onions. World record onions, right? And even these things are not going to have a very big root. So when you're watering, you don't want to overhead water, because what's going to happen is your leaves are going to get wet, right? And then fungal and bacterial spores will land on those wet leaves, and that's where you'll get your disease in your onions from. You want to use soaker hoses or irrigation, just so the water hits right on the ground, right? You don't want to spray the tops of your onions. If you get disease in there, you know, you're losing crops. So that's just no good, right? No one wants to lose crops. So I'm just going to angle the camera down a little bit, and I'm going to show you guys how I plant my onions. It's really simple. Onions are one of the easiest things to plant or to start your seeds from. So all you do, I like to have it nice and flat. That way you can see the onion seeds hitting your soil. And if you guys see black chunks in here, if you're looking and the camera's picking up black chunks like that, that's biochar from my garden. So here we go. Not hard. Take your onions. These ones are ruby reds. It's 250 in a pack. See, and if you look, if you buy your seeds from a quality vendor, it'll tell you right there on the package. See, these say long day. So I have no worries that these won't grow in my environment, right? So I'm going to do about half of this package. Yeah, maybe 2/3 of the package. Something like that. So here's your onion seeds. Okay, they're easy to work with. All you do, spread them around. Keep in mind, guys, you're going to want this to grow like grass, okay? It's really simple. You know what? I think I'm going to just put the whole package in here, I think. It's not going to cover it off. So all you do, spread them around. And don't worry that they're growing too thick in your soil here. Because when you're going to harvest these to plant them outside come planting season, actually, you know what? I think that'll work. When you go to separate these to plant them, it's really easy. All you do is do it in the morning when it's not sunny and not hot, or do it in the evening. You don't want to do these. You don't want to plant your little tiny onions into the soil when it's just going to get baked on by the sun all day. So all you do is you spread those around. There's probably, well, there's 250 in the pack. There's probably 50 onions in here. So there's, give or take, 250 onions in here. You want your soil pre-moistened, okay? And as you saw, all I did was spread those onions around. And I'm just going to give them a light covering with soil. You want about 1/4 inch of soil on top of your onion seeds. Just like that. It's not complicated. They're just onions. That's it. That's all it takes. And I'll just water these in after. So always have your soil pre-moistened, right? So when you go to put these outside, what you're going to do is you're just going to take your hose and you're going to get your nozzle and you're going to get it on the mist setting. And like I said, this is going to look just like your front lawn. There's probably 200 seeds in here, right? So what you're going to do is you're just going to moisten the soil down. And onion roots, they're like little tiny wires. They're not your sort of traditional plant root. They're really tough, you know, kind of look like that. Just a little, kind of wiry. So all you do is you moisten this down and you just kind of spray off a lot of the soil, right? It's going to be easy because this thing is just going to be kind of like a mat. And then you just grab each individual onion and just grab it, give it a little bit of a shake and a pull, and it'll just pull that onion separate from the rest of them. That's all you got to do. And then when you plant them, so you're going to have the white bottom of the onion, the bulb. It's going to be white, right? And then right where it starts to transition from white to green, that's how far you want to put them in the ground. No deeper. You don't want to bury any green. You want maybe 1 inch of onion in the ground, depending on the size you're doing them. And that's all you got to do. I do my onions first thing in the morning or later on in the evening. That way the sun's not baking them. These are those Kelsey onions. We're going to do the whole package here. So like I did before, spread them around. A couple of handfuls of topsoil on the top, or not topsoil. So this soil I'm using is my own blend of soil. I use some bagged soil. I also make my own soil. So this is a combination in this bucket right here of the ProMix organic vegetable soil blend plus ProMix HP plus alfalfa meal plus a little bit of Epsom salts in here just to get them going. So we did that one. And now we're going to do Utah yellow sweet Spanish onions. It's 250 in this pack. All right, handful of onions. And the nice thing about onion seeds is they're big enough that you can work with them in your hands, you know. It's not like trying to work with carrot seeds or basil seeds or something super, super tiny. All right, there's those. So it really doesn't take much, guys, to get your onions going. In the span of what? 5 minutes, I've already planted hundreds of onions. So when these come up in a week or two, they'll come out of the ground kind of like this. They'll come out of the ground folded in half. And then within a couple of days, they'll just straighten up like that. And your onions will go from little shorty onions to onions twice as big, which is kind of always nice because then you have this visual of, look at all of my onions, right? So these ones are sweet Spanish yellows. Here's a piece of that biochar I was telling you about. I'm going to be doing a video about biochar once I get a fire pit up and operational. Spread your onion seeds around. And it really doesn't matter if you get too many kind of in a tight cluster. It will not make a difference. Just throw them out in your soil, spread them around, put some dirt on it. Or soil, not dirt. Dirt's garbage. There's no life in dirt, guys. Soil's where it's at. Dirt is literally devoid of life. That's the kind of crap you see in parking lots and stuff, just junk. So that's it for that. And I'm not packing this down, in case you're wondering. I'm just smoothing it out. There you go. And the last one, we're doing red Basanos. So repeat the process. Sprinkle your onion seeds around. Cover with about a 1/4 inch of soil. So that's it. Onions planted. So in the span of what? 5 minutes, I just put somewhere in the realm of 1,000 onions in the ground here. Right? It's not hard. Onions are super easy. They don't take much maintenance. I'll water these in after I shut the video off. So the takeaway, guys, here is know your region, know where you live, what latitude you live at. Know what latitude you live at, so whether you need to grow long day or short day onions, you know, feed them properly, take care of them. Don't spray them with your hose, you know, water the soil, don't water your plants, and that's about it. It doesn't take much, okay? All right, guys, well, this is Green Thumb Prepper. Thanks for coming over. We're going to, next video I'm doing, we're going to go real deep into potatoes. We're going to be talking potato towers, we're going to be talking chitting potatoes, the process for all that sort of stuff. So like, subscribe, share it around on your social media accounts. Commenting, all that stuff really helps with the algorithm to push my channel. I'm trying to get the channel to grow as fast as I can, so that way I can spread as much information as I can. Planting season is coming up real fast for a lot of people, so if I can give you guys some hints and tips and tricks and stuff to get your garden growing better, then that's where we're at. All right? Have a great day, guys. Thanks. See you later. Bye.